painting to photography, from beadwork to woodworking, KQAL-FM on the campus of Winona State University presents Art Beat. Art Beat highlights the work and accomplishments of local artists from in and around Winona. Support for Art Beat is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
Today on Art Beat, we talk to local artist Lyon Smith about his latest work, Driftless Sanctuary. The piece has been on display at public launch in downtown Winona. We talked to Lyon about how beavers and the way they build were part of the inspiration for his piece. We also talk about where the piece might end up next. I'm Bill Stoneberg with Lyon Smith on Art Beat. We're looking at photos here, and is this like inspiration over here with the beaver dam or the beaver hut?
This is the environment where this sculpture was created.
Cool.
And it was inspired by, piles of sticks that are built by beavers and beaver huts.
So is that a lot of the inspiration that come from just like, the way beavers alter things and change things and the way we do? And
well, it's just kind of the way that I'm creative these days is by observing nature and kind of building sculptures out of it.
Right.
Like using it to make things like this big found object sculpture.
It is awesome.
And it's basically just creating an environment that people can enjoy and can walk through, and they can it just creates kind of a feeling of nature inside kind of an urban environment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, totally. So, I read in the description of the event that you used like beaver architecture, like the way they build their huts and stuff. So is that kind of how you built this, just by observing what they build, or?
Yeah, it's my interpretation of seeing a beaver house, and the main interest for me was just creating kind of the inside environment where people could go in. So we're inside the sculpture now here. So
right.
I like the idea of just like walking into an environment, and it gives it just gives you a nice feeling. It's fun to build things like this in nature, kind of almost replicate nature from the material of nature and from the floods and what it washes in and what the beavers chew on and what they eat, and they're like they're the leftovers basically.
Okay, yeah, that's another thing I read. That was like a lot of the wood is wood that beavers actually kind of chewed up and
see that. A lot of this stuff is, and a lot of it is driftwood, but everything that's got these marks on it. And I look at these as pieces of artwork, pieces of natural artwork. And this is a kind of a piece that I hung up on the wall. I look at it as a sculpture, like a sculpture made in nature.
Right.
And I'm basically a sculptor and a carver. Like I like to carve wood and stuff too, so I'm kind of like, working with these guys on
cool.
on sculpture.
It's like a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, like we're learning from each other.
Yeah.
Kinda, it's kind of interesting.
Wow.
That piece hanging on the wall
that's
there.
all chewed on by beavers.
Yeah,
that's
that's all chewed up by beaver, and it's you get it on a wall and it looks beautiful. I think.
Yeah, totally. Like you said, it's like bringing nature inside,
Yeah, so it's basically it's just me having fun, kind of getting out into nature and working with materials that are, available to anybody, and just like being creative with it,
right,
and making something.
Cool. Well, and I also kind of heard that you had a little issue with Mother Nature while you were building this, something like the floodwaters or something.
Yeah, the floods came in. I started building this sculpture probably about a year ago, actually, late August, and I was gathering materials, and I built, that's one of the really early, see that photograph over there? Okay. That's a really early version of it, and that's where we built the first incarnation of this sculpture. And that was built in, August, I think. I started August, and it was built all through the winter. And I would gather materials and kind of find stuff. And then there was a big flood last fall. It didn't really, it came up to, maybe like 2 or 3 feet from the bottom of the sculpture here. And then, we got tons of snow and tons of rain in, the winter and the spring. And the water came up, last March or something, and basically just like came up and washed the whole thing away.
Oh, wow. Wow. So did you find pieces of it, or did you just start over?
Yeah, I did. It was, this little spot here is kind of in the backwaters there. Like, typically it's dry land, but when there's a flood, it can go 10 to 12 feet above the ground. So basically, it washed that whole thing, and the current kind of took it. It got hung up on a bunch of trees, so I could see it. And I had pieces of it kind of put together with deck screws and stuff, and I was kind of just building it out of whatever was, cordless drill and whatnot, just having fun out there. So it was kind of, it was all wrecked and messed up, and it was, it floated maybe like 50 yards downstream, but I could see it, and I had a canoe, and I would canoe out there and pick up the pieces, just load them into the canoe.
So was it meant to be like moved and taken apart to like bring into a gallery like this, or to take it down and move it around?
Sure.
So like when you do that, does it change?
It changed a lot.
So that was part of
It's totally different.
So it evolves.
It evolves, yeah. This is actually, let's see, 1, 2. This is the third version of this sculpture.
Oh, cool. Where has it been before this?
Well, it was out there at the Swamp House. That's called the Swamp House.
Okay.
And I built it out there originally, and then it washed away.
Right.
And then I had to go get it in a canoe and haul it back and throw it in my truck and drive it down here to the back of this building.
Right.
And I got a little studio in the back here.
Oh, nice.
And I got the biggest pieces and kind of built the structure of it in the back. There was another art show up here, so I had to wait to actually install it. So basically, I just brought all this material down here and stored it in the back of this building.
Okay.
And then when it was my turn to have a show, a friend of mine named Steve and I helped me. He's a really good friend of mine that helped me kind of bring all this stuff in here, and he kind of assisted me building this thing.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Cool.
he was kind of like my sculpture assistant.
Nice. So it's almost like a group effort.
Sure, and he helped me gather a lot of materials, and he's kind of he's gathered quite a few materials here and donated them to me as well.
Oh,
so I want to give him some credit for that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he's going to be here tonight telling a story, and he actually told a story for the opening as well.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice,
so
nice.
He's a cool dude.
So was that part of the intention too, was to have people gather in it and around it and tell stories and stuff?
Yeah, that was one of the main things, not the main thing, but one of the main ideas was to create a environment for people to gather and tell stories and get together and kind of just communicate on a different level than you're normally communicating. Kind of almost like out here in nature, and kind of bring that in here. And the whole beaver hut thing was kind of like the inside of the hut is kind of their house and where they communicate. So just create just a different kind of a space that gives you a different feeling, which will let you communicate maybe differently. So that's kind of what the idea of this sculpture is.
I love it, and I love the fact that you can go inside,
Yeah,
But there's a huge connection to the river, it seems like, right?
for sure.
For
sure.
Is that where you get most of your inspiration from when you're working?
Well, for this project, yes, for sure.
Okay.
But I've done lots of different art projects. I'm inspired by lots of different things. But the river obviously is one of the things that will always inspire me.
Right, living right
Because
on.
I'm from here. I'm from Winona. I love the environment. And I find it interesting to be able to create things from the environment. So the thing for me is what do you do with something like this when you're done with it? There's another show coming in here after this show.
Do you have any plans to show anyone anywhere else or put it up somewhere permanent?
I would love to be able to do that. I'm looking for a home for it. And it'd be fun to show it in a big space somewhere, or,
Right. So the name Driftless Sanctuary, where'd you come up with that?
Actually, Matt helped me with that one.
Yeah?
Matthew Fluharty, yeah, he's the guy who runs this this gallery here, and I was applying for a grant, and he read it for me, and we read it over, and I think I had like a different name for it. I showed him this grant that I wrote, and he saw the title of it, and he's like, we were talking about like, I think actually it was Driftless Burrow, I think was the first idea that I had for it. That was the original idea. And then we came up with, after Matt read the grant, we came up with this name, Driftless Sanctuary, to create kind of a space that's like you can go into, and it kind of creates kind of an interesting feeling, kind of a sanctuary type feeling, because it was built in this environment which is like that,
Right.
So just trying to translate that into a public space.
Right. And it does put you in a different feeling, a different mindset when you walk into it,
That was one of the main parts of this project is creating that feeling where people are interested in it for some reason. It's just a pile of sticks, really. Some people say that, but it's like it creates an environment where people like you will come down because they're interested in, because it's different. It's something different that you haven't seen before.
Well, it's always fun, art that you can walk inside of and, experiencing it from different angles like that.
Yeah, there's this an artist named Richard Serra. Have you heard of Richard Serra? He makes these huge metal, 30, 40 feet tall metal sculptures that are just big sheets of metal that he bends that you can walk into these. It's like rooms almost, like huge. And there's this place called the Dia Beacon, which is in Beacon, New York, and it's this old Nabisco cracker factory, and it's just this one room that's huge, like it's as big as a city block. And there's 5 of these Richard Serra sculptures that you can just walk into, which is really interesting. Yeah.
Nice. So did you kind of draw inspiration from that kind of stuff?
Well, I like that kind of stuff, and
right.
I suppose there is a little bit of inspiration from him, but it's a totally different thing. But creating that environment, I think it's the same concept.
Right.
The environment where you can walk inside a Richard Serra sculpture, and you'll feel like you're maybe in southern Utah or something, in the desert. It's some kind of canyon or something.
Right. Okay.
So it's kind of interesting to create different environments where people can walk into it, just off the street, and then you can feel something. You can feel like you're in a different place, and you have a different type of feeling.
Right.
So that's part of it. And for me, it was trying to translate from what I feel out in nature, and with the fire pits and the building little forts for the kids and the beaver houses, kind of.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's an experiment, really.
I think it does that too, because when I walk inside it, that's what I feel like. If anyone's spent any time in the river, that's what it feels like. There's a lot of this around you.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's kind of just trying to put a little bit of order into some of the chaotic flood debris that floats in here.
Right.
And the beaver sticks.
So, if you could distill it down, what do you want people to take away and get from, being inside and experiencing it?
I want people just to think outside the box, and instead of seeing a bunch of driftwood, actually seeing potential in something. And you can create artwork, or create an environment, or create a fire or whatever. Just use what you got around you.
Nice.
And kind of just be creative with it. And I've seen people walking in the forest. Sometimes there's people that make little sculptures out there and stuff. Cool. Uh-huh. So it's kind of I see that people looking at this, and they are thinking outside the box, and they're kind of letting their creativity flow.
Nice.
And that'd be cool. Kind of cool to see that being translated in different areas. People kind of
right.
creating environments just in nature or wherever, in your backyard or wherever you are.
Right. Kind of spreading that feeling and that letting that evolve. Yeah.
Yeah. Just seeing what happens.
Cool.
It's just it's a fun experiment for me.
Lyon, one more question for you. So if someone wants to find out more about your art, do you have somewhere they can go online or anything like that? Or?
I'm not really too big online right now.
Okay.
But if they want to get in touch with me, they can check out the public launch, a website or Facebook page, and talk to the public launch guys, the art gallery people.
Okay. So we'll just keep an eye out for you and watch the public launch. Thanks, Lyon. Thanks for being with us tonight.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks again to Lyon Smith for joining us today on Artbeat. To find out more about Lyon's work or about Public Launch, just search Public Launch on Facebook. For more conversations on art, tune into Artbeat Tuesdays at 12:30 right here on 89.5 KQAL. I'm Bill Stoneberg, and we've just heard from Winona artist Lyon Smith on Artbeat.
Artbeat is written and produced by KQAL-FM on the campus of Winona State University. Visit us on the web at kqal.org.
Is art an important part of your life? Find podcasts of Artbeat and all your favorite KQAL shows at kqal.org. Artbeat is made possible by a grant from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.